Jesus. Flipping heck. Hi guys, Alex Peak Performance Reviews, and welcome to another video and welcome to another car review. Today's video I'm going to have the Porsche Taycan Turbo, and yeah, I want to give you my thoughts as to what I think of this car. I hear lots of good things, but is it good or is it really good? I don't know. I want to make my own judgment, and I certainly want to tell you guys what I think. So yeah, watch on and yeah, let's see what it's like. So yeah, onto the driving. It's time to start driving this car. The input you get from this car straight away is just phenomenal. It makes me smile. Obviously, as I'm going to say, a petrol head, I'm probably going to have to change that maybe to gearhead. What you want to see from a car is you want to feel everything from a car. You want dynamics, you want feel, and most people would associate an electric car as being boring, and I have to say the feeling of this car through the steering wheel and through your butt, literally, if it wasn't so quiet, you would think you're in a petrol combustion car, because the chassis on this car is just mind-blowing. It's so good, it corners so flat, and it just doesn't feel like anything electric I've ever driven before in my life. And I have driven quite a few electric cars, fully electric cars, and some of the more higher end electric cars that are out there as well, this being the most high-end electric car I've ever been in. It is absolutely gorgeous from the interior to the exterior. £115,000 these cars are from the base turbo. Obviously you can spec it up much like this car, and it gets to around 130 reasonably easy. But that being said, I've looked at the spec of this car. I think I could easily live without probably £10,000, maybe £5,000 of these optional extras. But what I want to say to you guys is just remember that if you go to a dealership, the chances are you probably can get a deal. So I wouldn't be surprised if you can get a few bolt-on extras on a car and still keep it around 115,000 for these turbo models. Obviously there are 4 variant models now. The rear-wheel drive version has just launched, and then you've got the 4S model, and then the Turbo and the flagship Turbo S. From my understanding, what a lot of people are saying is that the Turbo S is almost a bit too much of a car. It's too powerful for everyday road conditions, and I'm hearing that the Turbo model, which is this one, is the one to have. Now, I wouldn't know because I haven't driven every single one of them, but one thing I do know is this car is absolutely amazing, and already I am loving this car. It gives me the same kind of feeling underneath my butt of a dynamic driver-focused car, much like something like an FK8 Civic Type R. Sounds like a strange comparison, but no, I kid you not. You've got to look at that being like a flagship hot hatch. So you've got to imagine that dynamically, any car, whether it's £40,000 or £150,000, if it has a chassis that can do what that does around the Nürburgring, you've got to applaud it. Fully electric car, you have to remember, guys, and this has posted a track Nürburgring lap time of 7 minutes 42. So yeah, 1 second quicker than the FK8 Civic Type R, for example. And it sounds like, you know, why am I comparing a hot hatch to a sports GT, an exotic sports GT? Well, I'm just merely pointing out the fact that that car is so dynamic, so fun, and so capable that if you can have a 2.3 to 2.4 ton car like this that does everything that it needs to and then some, and do those kind of things, wow, we are ticking boxes here. And if this is like the start of the future, sign me up 100%. What we do have to realise is that this car has derived a lot of technical implementation of things that have come from a 919 race car. So lots of things that are in this car have been basically almost like passed down or derived from the 919 race program. So it has a pedigree. You've got race car components and things in this car, and boy does it show. Obviously, being an all-electric luxury exotic car, this has a plethora of tech in the car. So it has this gorgeous 16.8-inch wraparound design screen, gorgeously crisp, really nice, easy to see. Obviously the steering wheel is adjustable, and there's an 18-way memory seat as well, so it will remember lots of different positions if you need it, if there's multiple users, which I like as well. And there's no end of adjustment in this seat as well, and it's incredibly comfortable. You sit really low in it. It's got these beautiful turbo bucket seats, which are absolutely gorgeous. They're so comfortable in long distance or short. It has, you know, dual USB port charging in the front, dual USB port charging in the rear as well. Let's talk about range, because this is quite important. It has an 800 volt architecture based inside of this, which is really good. It essentially is what I would say future proofs this car for, you know, anything going into the future. It is up to the absolute forefront of technology as electric cars go. And when I say 800 volts, what that allows you to do is it allows basically a lower amp draw to be used, which means that Porsche have been able to use lighter electronic looms essentially, so less weight, which means the car will be lighter, quicker, more dynamic. It means that obviously fast charging is available, 270 kilowatt fast charging, which is absolutely phenomenal. But what it also means is there's a really clever thermal management system on this car. Now, why is it important to have a really clever thermal management on a car? Well, I'll tell you, lots of other car manufacturers, big manufacturers, including that big American manufacturer that we all know and maybe love, and they basically, if you were to put your foot down in those cars, you can do 1 or 2 launches and you'll overheat the batteries, and you can't keep doing it. This car has a repeatability factor. You can continue to push this car hard as you like, and it will manage the thermodynamics of the battery load so it doesn't overheat, so you can keep doing, you know, quarter mile runs again and again. Also, what it allows you to do is, typically speaking, it allows better thermal management during recharge. And what I mean by that is, what I've noticed in the community of people testing these cars, or not these cars, but cars in general in the electric front, they will go to a charge station and the battery will basically be too cold for the user to basically input a charge into the car. So what it does is it goes into a super slow charge. It doesn't take to a charge, and they end up sitting at a service station for about 2, 3, 4 hours and only getting 50, 60 miles of range. That is not what you want. Thankfully, I've been told in the near future it's going to manage its charge even more with some over-air updates, and it's coming very soon to all of the model range. And what that's going to basically allow you to do, it's going to preheat the batteries. It knows you're about to go to a station because it knows that it's low on battery. And if it's low on battery, what it will do is it will pre-warm the batteries ready for the charge. So you'll go to the charging station and you can put in the maximum charge rate, and you can get that quick charge like you want. So going on to range, you'll get 272 miles on a combined route, and in city driving you'll get 301. So it is absolutely fantastic, really good long range. And unlike some other electric vehicles, this has a specific WLTP range, but from what I'm hearing, this will hit very close to those figures, which is really good. Going on to the charging range or charging supply, 11 kilowatt output that you have in your own home will charge essentially overnight, 9 hours. So you plug it in, you go to sleep realistically, and you'll be at 80% charge, which is going to give you a range of like 200 miles. If you have a 50 kilowatt output charger, which is a bigger, better charger, you can get 5 to 80% charge in 93 minutes. If you find one of the Porsche 270 kilowatt output range chargers, you can get 80% range in 22 minutes. So literally, you could go into a service station, you could go and get a coffee, probably go out, pay for it, and maybe take a couple of sips or put it in the cup holder. And by the time you've done that, I wouldn't be surprised if you've pretty much got an 80% range. That is absolutely amazing. Essentially, what that would then give you is it would give you a range of around 200 miles. Job done. Now, I don't want to talk too much about bump and technical spec, but obviously this has double wishbone suspension on the front and multi-link rear. So obviously sophisticated, very nice, no expensive spared suspension, as you'd expect from Porsche, and that is why it obviously goes round corners very, very well. Obviously, being a GT car, you'd want it to be relatively practical, and thankfully it actually is. It's actually got a combined luggage compartment size very close to something like an M5. Not quite as big, but very close. 366 in the rear, and it's got a little extra one in the front of 81 litres. So combined total size of somewhere circa 460 litres. So it's actually quite a lot. So yeah, let's go on to performance figures. It's got brake horsepower figure of 625 brake horsepower with 680 on overboost function. That overboost function is available on launch, and that will be deployed for about 2.5 seconds. So it takes it up to 680 horsepower. Absolutely crazy. And what that equates to in real statistical terms is a 0 to 62 time of 3.2 seconds and 0 to 99 in 6.9, and a 0 to 124 mile an hour time of 10.6 seconds. It's just madness. As I said before, there's a lot of kit on this, and there's a lot of things that can be changed in the drive modes, one of which is the suspension. It has active air suspension, as well as some shocks in there as well to bolster that on the side. But yeah, it does a phenomenal job. When you want to be comfortable, it will be comfortable. If you go in the more sporty settings, you can feel everything firm up a lot. But it's just so comfortable in every setting. I can feel that it would be a very dailyable car and a very drivable car. It's very, very, very comfortable. Let's test out the performance. Let's put it in sports. Wow. I can't really say a lot. That is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Right, so let's do some performance tests, I guess. I'm literally shaking because of how quick that is. Do you know what? It's the first car that's made me feel like that, and anyone who doesn't know me from our channel, actually, and I'm going to say it, I know it's an independent review, but it feels like how my 854 horsepower Mark IV Toyota Supra Turbo feels, and that is a savagely quick car. That is just mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing. And I've just launched the car quite a few times, and it just does it. And I tell you what, it is 9 degrees, and it is, I'm going to turn it back onto range mode because I need to kind of get my bearings back. It is just out of this world. It's 9 degrees out, and it is so damp. It is beyond damp, and the grip levels are ridiculous. There was absolutely no loss of traction, and that was launch control. Wow. It's weird because I come from a background where I'm very driver's car focused, and this already has impressed me on that front, and not just a drag racer. But that is so much fun that even just the relentless sheer pace and power and quickness of the car, from 0 to 60, from 0 to 100, mind blown. It's not often I get left pretty speechless and I don't say a lot. I'm going to continue to say a lot, but this car is amazing. It's genuinely a 10 out of 10 car. And if this is a little taste of what's to come, and I'm hearing on the grapevine that there's better, bigger, better to come, and this is only the beginning, which it is, wow, the future is bright, people. I'm actually a little bit emotional. It's such a good car. I would say if you've got the money for something like this and you want to do your bit for the planet, or you want to have something electric, if you want the best electric car by a mile, by an absolute country mile, go buy one of these. If I had the money, I would, I'm telling you. I'd have this alongside, you know, an old classic or something like that. Nice little offset. What a machine. But no, as an all-round car, this really does tick boxes. There's not much not to like about it. As electric cars go, you could forget that this was an electric car, especially on Sports Plus. It just feels like a high-end supercar or sports car. It is absolutely phenomenal. Stick it in Sports Plus again. So much acceleration. I haven't got a clue where my mobile phone's gone from out of that cup holder. Park up and find it. It's actually gone in the back seat. Wow. Somehow it's just avoided the void in the middle, and it's just literally flown across into the back seat. Amazing. That's some acceleration. That's neck snapping acceleration. Talking of performance, one of the other things that's very worthwhile mentioning is this actually has a bit of active aero as well as a flat underbody, much like a race car, and that's obviously in the want of better efficiency and aerodynamics, and this car has got that in abundance. So the Porsche 911 Turbo has a drag coefficient of 0.29, and this has a drag coefficient of 0.22, and that obviously equates to a green, efficient car. And that's shown in the underbody of the car with its flat body and rear diffuser. It also has this kind of gurney flat spoiler, which changes depending on the mode, and obviously operates in its kind of most efficient position in normal and range mode. And essentially it gives you obviously the most downforce when you need it, when you're really driving it and pushing it hard in the sports modes, in the Sports Plus mode. And it acts as an air brake also, so it assists in braking, obviously during deceleration as well, which is absolutely phenomenal. One of the other things that's worth noting in the efficiency and harvesting is the brakes. The brakes can give you up to 0.4 Gs of brake force without having to activate essentially the electronic assistance through hydraulics. And obviously what that does is it means it doesn't need to take away your range unless you really need it to, including the air brake. But in most driving conditions, when you're really trying to eke out the most range, it will not touch that hydraulic assist. It will just use an ever so slight amount of assistance through regenerative braking. Like I said, back on the tech spec, you have things like heated front seats and rear seats. There is a dash panel display for the rear occupants as well, so you can change, you know, your air climate settings for the rear on a touch screen also. When we're talking how much this car costs, for the tech you get in this car, for the interior you get in this car, for the performance you get in this car, and for the fact that you have an engineered car that comes essentially from technology that you'll see that's found on a 919 race car, and it has a Porsche badge on it, for me, it's priced correctly. I haven't got the money for one. If I did have, would I have one? Absolutely yes. I knew that within 2 hours of driving this car. I will tell you now, this car is so good. If you can't tell from my facial expressions in some of my videos, trust me when I say that this car is absolutely amazing. A couple of other cool tech features. Obviously, it has auto door handles, which they just pop out, you know, nothing much, but simple things, you know, simple pleasures that we like. One of the other things that I love is the little party piece. Lots of different manufacturers love to find different ways to open that electronic paneling for your charge port. And this one has a lovely party piece, which I'll show you right now on the screen for yourselves. And yeah, just a little swipe and it opens. And I love that. Real simple, but nice little individual thing that Porsche has done. One of the other things I do like, and I've already touched upon it, is ease of use. Really, really simple. Toggle switch on the steering wheel, absolutely gorgeous. And I love this Alcantara steering wheel. It is absolutely beautiful. Feels like it's out of a GT2 Porsche or something, you know, high end in the Porsche range. And it is. This car is a very, very high end Porsche. And it deserves the best, and they're giving it the best. But like I say, them drive modes can be changed so easy on the fly with that little toggle switch. I love that. You can also do it on this little drive roller on the right hand side, and you can just custom and change things on the fly, nice and easy, clear and simple, beautiful, love it. Let's go on to sound. I have said one thing that obviously Porsche has done, they've obviously got external sounds for safety at low speed. So obviously it gives an audible warning, I suppose, for anyone who won't typically hear a silent car like this. So you can hear that. It's a safety thing, obviously, to make sure that, you know, people external of the car, passers by, you know you're coming. Also, obviously, it is an electric car. So what does it sound like? It sounds electric, but they've given it an interesting, awesome kind of orchestration through the speakers, and it kind of almost sounds like an old school spaceship, basically. For want of a best way to describe it, I guess. But yeah, on Sports Plus mode, it's got a real nice different pitch which adjusts to how fast you go. And with that, let's give it a little go. Here we go. Spaceship-like, isn't it? Now, only after driving this quite a bit am I starting to get slightly used to this pace. Well, I'm not really, because it's so friggin' fast, but it's the sensation of the sheer power of this car. It just feels, it does feel like you're on a roller coaster, and the acceleration is just ridiculous. It is mind-blowing. Like I say, I hate to think what the Turbo S feels like. This is as fast as you could think you'd need to want on a car. It's just epic, absolutely epic. And just to let you know, it has a top speed electronically limited to 161 miles an hour. I'm sure you'll agree that is plenty fast enough. 161, even on an autobahn, that is going to be more than what you need. On a circuit, I think this car would do a really, really good job. I suspect, like in Sports Plus mode, it will last quite a while out on track. But obviously, I'm sure as time goes on, even, you know, circuits are going to start to have charging points available. This car to own and have as a daily driver would be such a pleasurable car to own and drive. But I'm going to give this car a little bit more of a push now. I've got some really interesting roads. Turn it into Sports Plus. Maybe a bit hard, but let's have a look. I like the sound you get from Sports Plus because it gives you that mechanical feeling and feedback, I guess. That's why I like it. But I say we've got to be a bit careful. These roads are very damp, quite bumpy. But you've got everything there underneath you to look after you. I say I'm not going to push this too much. This is not my car, and we've got to go flipping heck. The suspension is just nice little display showing you the regenerative recuperation in the brakes. Up to 275 kilowatts of regeneration. Phenomenal. Jesus, this chassis is good. It's phenomenal, guys. Brakes, unbelievable. Chassis, dynamics, control, beautiful roads. And this is the kind of road where you'd be like, well, you know, I go out in my electric car, it's going to be a bit boring, go down to the shops. But rest assured, guys, this ain't boring. Jeez. Flipping heck. What a machine. I did say earlier on the VT, it's not often that I'm speechless. Anyone that will know me will know that I talk for England. What a route. What a car. Obviously, it's definitely a lot harder in Sports Plus, but I like it. You get the communication through the steering, through your butt. It means you have to be a little bit more careful because obviously the suspension is a lot less pliant. So, and obviously things like the traction control is a little bit more wild. So I wouldn't say you'd always want to put it on this setting. It's firm. It's not too firm. But yeah, obviously it's like anything with a lot of power, you've got to keep your wits about you. But the front axle and the communication to the rear axle is just beautiful. Through the suspension, through the steering. And this is a 2.3 to 2.4 ton car, depending on which one and variant you go for. Maybe a little less in the rear wheel drive one. But it just doesn't feel it. It feels like a 1,500 kilogram car, so a regular sports car. Wow. What a machine, what a machine. I'm going to slow it down there, I think, guys. Let's put it back into range. It's one of those cars that actually is so evolving when you push it that actually it almost gets you breathless. A bit like when you're in a race car. It's when I'm racing and when I've got that helmet down, I'm actually racing on circuit. Yeah, your heart's beating out of your chest. But when you're driving a fast road car, you get the same kind of feedback from a really good car. And there's a handful of cars that do that. No electric car on the planet, aside from this at the moment, that I've driven, gives you that feeling of race car performance, of sports car, supercar performance. And this, not just in acceleration in a straight line, but chassis dynamics in the corners. This is one of those cars so close to perfection, so close to a 10 out of 10 car. I can't pick a fault in it. I've been hacking this around since this morning and I've been driving it for hours, and it has 66% of range available. I am absolutely close to speechless. What a machine. What a car. I want one. I want one. So yeah, that just about brings us to the end of the video. And I just want to kind of now go over the car and summarize what I think of this Porsche Taycan Turbo. Is also the future bright for electrification, for electric cars? Lots of questions that people will ask is, we have a future where it feels as though there's some restrictions being put in place. Electrification is one of those things that lots of us think there's a stigma attached to an electric car. And most of us have got that chain of thought where we think electric is going to be boring. I think also anyone who's driven some of the electric cars will know that actually there's some truth in that. Slowly they've gotten a little bit better. And then Porsche come along and made this car. And have they done electrification justice, or are they starting to make something that we can kind of enjoy as a sports car, as a supercar almost, or just as a sports car? And the short answer is absolutely yes. This car, you would have seen from all of my video, blew me away. I am now 100% so excited for the future. The automotive world is only just starting in the platform of electrification. The future is super strong. The moment someone like Porsche get involved in electrification. Every manufacturer is. Porsche make cars that people want to get in and drive, not just to go down to the shops, that want to make you feel like you want to drive that car. Why you go in that car and you're at one with that car, from the feeling through your fingertips, through your bum, everything. A car that you can drive fast on the road, a car that you can drive fast on the track. You never thought it would be possible, especially this early in the development of electric cars. Porsche have only just started to touch the iceberg, full stop. It's not the tip of the iceberg for them. But for me, what I would say is this, the prologue of things to come. And I'll tell you what, if this is the prologue, imagine what's coming. If this is the prologue, I want in.